It started with the sound I thought only I could hear. At first, I chalked it up to stress, maybe lack of sleep. A faint hum, low and constant, like the kind you'd hear standing near a transformer box or power lines. But there were no power lines near my apartment. Just thin walls, flickering light bulbs, and a perpetually leaky faucet that annoyed me more than anything else. The hum seemed to seep in during quiet moments, those spaces between thought and action. At night, lying in bed, it crawled into my ears, a deep vibration that felt less like hearing and more like sensing, like it was inside my bones. The first few nights, I tried to ignore it. I'd play music, watch videos, anything to drown it out. But the second I hit pause, the sound returned, worse than before, louder, sharper, and it began to warp. The hum bent into syllables, broken fragments of something trying to be speech, whispering but never forming complete words. I couldn't make them out, but somehow I understood they were directed at me. At first, I laughed nervously to myself, muttering that I was going insane. Work stress, loneliness, too much time staring at screens. But the more I tried to rationalize it, the stronger the whispers became, filling the silence like a parasite. 3 days passed where I barely slept. My apartment started to feel like a cage. Every time I turned everything off, the fridge humming, the air conditioner blowing, even my phone buzzing, the whispers surged, filling every corner of the room. It wasn't just noise anymore. They carried weight, intention, like something was waiting for me to stop making sound, to just listen. On the fourth night, I broke. I shoved earbuds in and blasted static just to feel something normal. But when I pulled them out to go to the bathroom, the whispers weren't muffled. They were clearer. They had grown teeth. I heard my name, over and over, spoken in dozens of overlapping tones, low, high, male, female, old, young. Some voices sounded like people I knew. My mother, my old high school teacher, a woman I once dated, even people who had been dead for years. They all whispered my name over and over, dragging it like nails against glass. I sat on the floor, holding my head, whispering back at them, "Stop, stop, please stop." That's when I realized it wasn't just in my apartment, because outside, through the thin blinds of my window, the whole block was silent, dead silent. No cars, no footsteps, not even the buzzing of the street lamp. It was like the world outside had been swallowed. I pressed my forehead to the glass, staring at the empty street, and that's when I saw him. Sitting at a bus stop across the road, a man in a black coat, tall, still, unnervingly still. He didn't move, didn't shift, didn't even breathe. But the closer I looked, the more I realized it wasn't that he was quiet. It was that the air around him refused to make sound. Even the night itself seemed to die near him. I backed away from the window, my chest tightening. My heart pounded in my ears, the only sound left. And then I heard it. A single sentence whispered into my skull. Not from outside, from the silence itself. "You've been feeding it." I didn't sleep after that night. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the weight of that figure outside pressing against my skull. The whispers never stopped either. They layered into one another, 1,000 broken voices, until I couldn't tell where my own thoughts ended and theirs began. But the words it spoke to me, that single sentence, kept replaying. "You've been feeding it." I didn't understand what it meant, not at first. Feeding what? I hadn't left my apartment in days. I hadn't spoken to anyone. My fridge was empty. I was surviving on stale crackers and tap water. What could I possibly be feeding? But then, sometime past 3 a.m., the whispering cut out. Not faded, cut. Like a switch was thrown. The sudden absence of sound was worse than the noise. My ears rang with the pressure of nothingness, and I stumbled to the window again. He was still there, the man in the black coat. His head tilted slightly, as if he knew I was watching, and this time, he moved. Just a small shift, but it was enough. He raised a hand, lifted one finger, and pressed it to his lips. The gesture sent ice through my veins. My chest seized, and against my will, I obeyed. I covered my mouth with both hands, muffling even my breathing. And when I did, the silence deepened, like the whole city bent around me. That was when I heard it clearly for the first time. Not whispers, not fragments. A voice clean and sharp, like it was standing right beside me. They starve in the noise. They feed in the quiet. And you've been feeding them well. I didn't respond. I couldn't. My throat locked up, and some primal instinct told me speaking would be a mistake. The figure at the bus stop tilted his head again, just slightly, before lowering his finger. Then, impossibly, without ever rising, without ever standing, he was closer. One blink, and he was halfway across the street. Another blink, and he was in front of my building, standing beneath the burnt-out street lamp. I backed away from the window. My body screamed to run, to get out, but I couldn't hear my own footsteps. Couldn't hear the floor creak. I couldn't even hear the thud of my own heartbeat. It was like the silence had reached inside me and stolen the sound before it could leave my body. The voice spoke again, sharper now. You don't remember, do you? When you stopped filling the world with sound? When you let the gaps linger? That's when we came. That's when he took interest. I didn't want to ask who he was. But the question formed in my mind anyway. And in the space of that thought, the voice answered, the broker. The one who collects the quiet. And now, he's collecting you. The figure was at my door now. No footsteps, no knocking. Just there, a shadow beneath the crack. I bolted to the kitchen, grabbing the first thing I could find, a knife. My own ragged breathing rattled in my chest, and for a brief second I heard it. The sound of me, real, alive. But the second I gripped the knife tighter, it vanished again. And then came a new sound, faint, brittle, like glass cracking under pressure. I looked down at the blade in my hand. The metal was splintering, warping, as if silence itself was eating through it. I dropped it, and the knife shattered on the floor. No noise, no clatter, just a puff of air and nothing more. The shadow at the door didn't move, didn't push, didn't try to break in, but the voice spoke one last time before everything went black. Do you know what's left of a person when all their sound is gone? I didn't get to answer, because the world blinked out, and when I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was in a place where silence had a shape. When I came to, it wasn't like waking from sleep. It was like drowning and suddenly realizing you don't need air. The first thing I noticed was the weight, not gravity, but silence itself, pressing against my body like water pressing into lungs. I tried to scream just to break it, but nothing came out, not even the shape of breath. My throat moved, but it was as if sound had been erased from me completely. The world around me wasn't dark, but it wasn't light either. It was muted. A colorless place, flat and endless, stretching in every direction with no horizon. The floor beneath me looked like glass, but each time I tried to walk, ripples spread out beneath my feet, waves of silence rolling outward. And then I saw them. Figures, countless figures, all standing in neat rows, stretching into the infinite. Men, women, children, all still, all frozen, all with their mouths open wide in eternal screams. Their faces were locked in expressions of terror, but no sound escaped. The silence around them wasn't passive. It was devouring them, locking them into statues. That was when I understood what the voice meant. These weren't corpses. They were people emptied of their sound, of their voices, of their very existence. A new ripple moved across the glass floor, one that didn't come from me. I turned, and there he was, the broker. He was taller than I remembered, too tall for his proportions to be human. The black coat hung from his frame like it was stitched together from shadows, and where his face should have been, there was only smooth, polished glass, a mirror. And when I looked into it, I didn't see my reflection. I saw the inside of my apartment. I saw myself curled on the couch, rocking back and forth, my lips trembling but making no sound. The broker's voice came without air, slamming directly into my skull. "You've brought me much!" I shook my head violently, trying to back away. My feet slipped across the glass, sending more ripples into the silence. But he only followed, each step stretching reality. No sound. Not even the brush of his coat. Every pause you allowed. Every silence you filled with fear. I fed. The voice wrapped around me like a snake, squeezing my mind. Now I will take the rest. I tried to form words, but they died before reaching my lips. I clawed at my throat, desperate to force something out, anything. But it was useless. I couldn't make a single sound. The broker raised one long hand, palm open. In his hand, I saw it. A small, pulsing knot of light. My voice, my sound, my very essence. It twisted and writhed in his grip like a trapped animal. Muffled cries echoing faintly from within it. My cries. I fell to my knees, reaching for it, but he pulled it back, holding it above me like a cruel parent, teasing a child. The rows of silent figures all turned their heads at once, their empty mouths gaping wider. They were waiting, watching, hungry. That's when he spoke again, softer now. But I am merciful. I will offer you a trade. I will return your sound if you give me theirs. He gestured to the frozen people around us, his hands sweeping over thousands, millions of silenced souls. My chest tightened. He wanted me to choose, to condemn others in my place. The knot of light pulsed harder in his palm, crying out faintly for me to take it back. My lungs burned, my throat ached. Every part of me screamed to reclaim what he had stolen. But in that silence, I understood the trap. If I fed him, I would only become what I saw reflected in the glass floor. A vessel of silence, another broker in waiting. The broker leaned down, his glass face inches from mine. In its reflection, I saw not just myself. I saw the faces of everyone I had ignored, every phone call I hadn't answered, every conversation I had cut short, every silence I had left hanging. They stared back at me, accusing, trapped inside it. And then, for the first time since I arrived, I heard a sound. A faint, tiny sound. My own heartbeat. It was weak, but it was mine. I clenched my fists. If I still had that, maybe I wasn't completely his yet. Maybe silence hadn't taken everything. The broker's voice thundered one last time. Choose them or you. And with that, the knot of my sound burst open in his hand, unraveling into threads that snaked toward me and the frozen figures, wrapping around us all. The choice was ripping itself from my body, whether I wanted it or not. The threads of light tore through me like fire, latching onto my chest, my throat, my ears. They tugged in both directions, toward me and toward the frozen souls around us. I understood then. The broker wasn't simply offering me a choice. He was forcing it. If I resisted, the silence would swallow me whole. If I gave in, those people would become nothing more than echoes in his collection. The broker towered over me, glass face tilting, reflecting every angle of my fear. My heartbeat quickened, loud now, almost deafening inside the realm of silence. It was the only proof I still existed. I pressed my hands over my chest, holding onto that pulse like a lifeline. The light threads pulled harder, demanding I let go. The faces around me trembled, their mouths open wide, silently begging me not to condemn them. Choose, the broker hissed inside my skull. His voice cracked the air like stone breaking bone. Survive, or dissolve. For a moment, I nearly caved. My lungs ached for breath. My body begged for sound. I wanted my voice back, to scream, to weep, to laugh, to simply speak one word. But as the threads strained, as the choice dug claws into me, I realized something. The broker wasn't truly offering me life. He was offering servitude, a chain disguised as mercy. In the silence, it wasn't empty. It was alive, feeding, waiting for me to give in. So I did the only thing left. I opened my mouth, and with everything I had, I forced my heartbeat outward. Not words, not a scream. Just that pounding rhythm, raw and primal. At first, it was a whisper in the void. Then louder, stronger. Each thud cracked the silence like glass. The broker staggered, his body rippling, the mirror face warping under the vibration. The frozen figures turned toward me, and for the first time, their mouths closed. Their faces relaxed, as if remembering they once belonged to something alive. The silence shrieked in fury, recoiling like smoke from flame. The broker lunged at me, glass hand reaching for my chest. I pressed both palms against his mirror face and forced my heartbeat into him. Thud, thud, thud. Cracks spread across the glass. Behind them, I didn't see my reflection anymore. I saw the void itself, endless and hungry, writhing in pain at being denied. The broker let out a sound at last, not a voice, but a tearing howl of broken silence. And then he shattered. The glass face exploded into fragments, scattering across the floor like shards of frozen time. The rows of silenced souls crumbled, dissolving into threads of light that scattered into the void, free at last. The weight crushed me all at once, pulling me downward, drowning me in my own pulse. I thought I was gone, until I opened my eyes. I was back in my apartment, on the couch, gasping, sound flooding back into the world like a tidal wave. The hum of the refrigerator, the buzz of a streetlight outside, my own ragged, desperate breathing. But something was wrong. I tried to call out, just to hear my voice, but what came wasn't mine. The sound that escaped was a chorus of voices, layered and distorted. The voices of all those frozen souls. My words belonged to them now. In the window's reflection, I saw myself, but instead of my face, I saw smooth, polished glass staring back. The broker was gone, and I had taken his place.
If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe for more horror tales.